I want to thank you all for viewing our presentation. I'm Dr. Matthew Clay. I'm an assistant professor of teacher education, and I have Tiffany Burton and Toby Hostetter, who are both teacher candidates at Fort Hays State University. And our campus is located in Western Kansas. And we wanted to share about place-based education and a virtual science methods course. And so kind of my background as a teacher educator is I see a lot of value in the role of place in science education. And as we, especially in the United States, as we move towards this era of more standardization, place has kind of got a shrinking role in how we teach. And so for those of you familiar with David Orr's work on ecological literacy and environmental education, he has this point that in everything we teach, it carries a lesson about the environment. And I think that same logic carries to place. And so everything we teach carries a lesson about the value or lack thereof of the places in which we teach, in which our students live. And so kind of in that light, the goal is to try to make sure we have an intentional emphasis on showing what's valuable about the places we teach and in the places we live and the places our students live. And so what's a bit unique about our situation is that at Fort Hays State, we have a large online presence. We are able to offer our initial elementary education program completely online. Tiffany and Toby are two of our students in that program. We are in an extremely rural portion of the state. And in fact, most of the counties that make up our service area are considered frontier rural, so less than 6 people per square mile. And our service area is the size of the state of Virginia, and then several of the bordering states do not have 4-year institutions really anywhere close to the state line. And so we're covering a large geographic area, and as a part of that, we have this big online presence. And so our courses are generally asynchronous, and we have students located throughout the service area and beyond, and quite literally all around the world. And so the opportunity here was with the remote setting, we don't have a shared place between the instructor and students. We do offer face-to-face courses, and when I teach face-to-face, I have the shared experience of being in the same place with students. You know, we're in the same physical environment. But in a remote setting, we don't have that, and our students are located in all sorts of different settings. And so the challenge is that although we do not have that shared place, our students are going to be teachers in specific schools and in very particular communities. And so my goal is not just to prepare our students to teach anywhere, but to teach really well in their communities and really engage with their communities. And so this portion of our methods course, the goal was to really put an intentional emphasis on place and allow our teacher candidates to look at their local environment and their local community as a teaching resource. I'm really focused on teaching for where they are. And so as we get into this a bit, just to kind of give you a bit of a layout here, Fort Hays State is here in Western Kansas. Tiffany will share in just a bit. She's located up here in Southwest Nebraska. And then Toby's lesson involves a couple locations in South Central and then in South Central Kansas and then in North Central Oklahoma. And so the structure of the assignment here for students in the course was that they created a place-based science lesson that used their local environment and focused on local resources. And in particular, this year with the COVID pandemic, those ended up being remote lessons. So where they might have in another year have been working on an internship in a school in their area, this year these lessons were recorded remotely. And so the goal here, or what we want to do today is let Tiffany and Toby share from their lessons. As a teacher educator, that one of the things that really impressed me with both of these it's just the opportunity to see students not only like show their local environment, but show local environment that they know in a way that I don't, and that they know much better than I do. And so I, as you know, as the instructor, get to learn about these places and experience them as well.
Hi friends, we are down here by the Platte River. See it right here? Yes. I am really sorry that you guys could not join me, but maybe one day we can all actually take a real field trip. So I just wanted to show you guys some wetland area. Now, I'm going to get out here in a minute, but for now we're going to stand here and show you. Do you see how there's water? Kind of looks like a little island, if you will, surrounded by water. It's kind of mushy. I'm going to trek through some water to get over there and look. Okay. This is wetlands. And so right now I'm not seeing any sandhill cranes, but that doesn't mean they haven't been through here. I do see some footprints in here, but I'm not sure that they're sandhill cranes. So let's go out and take a look, and then we'll walk over maybe to another peninsula kind of area to see if we can discover more things. Okay, so these are the prints that I'm seeing. Probably deer is my guess. I think they mostly start out like that. Okay, see here's some, this is where sandhill cranes like love. There's a little bit of water, but there's some dry-ish sand as well. Now I have seen them in fields, but for the most part, they like to be in areas like this, okay? Okay, over here we've got somebody that drove through here. And that happens, I guess. Pretty much the same kind of tracks. I was hoping I would find some kind of bird tracks to show you guys, but I'm not seeing much. Mostly just deer. Maybe some coyotes. Good possibility. Okay. Mostly deer and coyotes. Okay, so there's one last thing I wanted to show you guys, and we're gonna just look at something that a sandhill crane might eat. Do you guys see this little purpley flower here? They might eat this, okay? I'm not gonna pull it out of the ground or anything, but I wanted you guys to see that some of the things they might eat. So they eat like smaller animals, not your dog. They eat little minnow fish kind of thing. They eat, if there's crayfish, they'll probably eat those. They eat little bugs, little insects, like little plants like this. Things that you're not supposed to feed sandhill cranes, people food, right? Can you imagine seeing a sandhill crane eat a Twinkie? They probably would, but it's not very good for them.
So I did this over kind of our fall break for last semester, which would have been fall 2020. I was really nervous about making this because I wanted it to be so great. And I just really wanted there to be sandhill cranes because I think they're so magical looking and amazing. And I know that the kids would love to see them. So I think the most important takeaway from this is that as a teacher, this is something that you can do so that you don't actually have to take your kids out, because taking them out to the wetlands would be a terrible idea. You can't load all these kids up. You can't put them in rain boots and make sure that they don't get in the water or get messy. So this could be something that you could really do ahead of time on a break or a weekend, or if you take your kids to really cool places, like the Grand Canyon, or to dig dinosaur bones. These are things that you could just capture while you're out doing whatever you would do normally. And so it also creates that environment that we have this. You guys could go with your parents to North Platte, to the river, and look at these sandhill cranes. Now, actually here in Nebraska, we have this huge reserve where people can pay thousands of dollars and they can stay the night on the river, and they can wake up looking at the sandhill cranes and seeing the sun come up. And apparently it's beautiful, but I'm unable to afford that. But I have gone many times to see how awesome the cranes are. And I just think it's so important that kids know how amazing just the place they live in is, because everybody tells you to when you grow up, you're going to leave here, but you also need to appreciate where you came from, and you need to appreciate the land and all the animals that travel through. So I think it's really great. And I really enjoyed this lesson, even though I was terrified to do it to begin with.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Toby with Fort Hays State University in Hays, Kansas. Today we're here at the Timber Creek Nature Center, and we're going to be discussing how important place-based education is. So we can learn a lot about our environment and share with the students the wonderful things that we can find just by going outside. So come along with me. So at the Timber Creek Nature Center, this area was once part of an oxbow. An oxbow is a portion of a waterway that has bent off and has been created by a levee. So on the other side of this levee here to my right is a river. And inside of the Timber Creek Nature Center, there are several small waterways. And within these waterways, we find trees, dirt, rocks, different types of vegetation to study. Now, the waterways that are down here at the Timber Creek Nature Center used to be a lot deeper. And even just 30 years ago, they were several feet deep, even up to 15 feet deep. Now they're just small waterways that a person can just stand in up to their ankles. Now, they have pretty much dried out unless we get a lot of rain and it floods from the levee area. So what we would do for place-based education and explaining to our students the types of environment that we can find here and the types of soil and rocks is we would just take a digging sample. So after we do our digging sample, we would take our items back to the school, and we would analyze and document what we find. Now, if we want to take this experiment just 80 miles away to the Great Plains Salt Digging Area in Cherokee, Oklahoma, that is another great place for place-based education where we can do a bit of a comparison in just a short distance away. The Great Plains Salt Digging Area is an 11,200 square acre flat that you can go and dig up crystals. You can go away with up to 10 pounds of selenite crystals from this magical digging area. So we would take a trip down to the Great Plains Salt Digging Area and collect our samples. We would research the ground and the environment and see how the environment has changed over time. And so it'd be really great for the students to be able to compare and contrast the different types of soil, rocks, and vegetation that we can find in these areas. So if you have a chance to take a look at the sites and the resources that I'm sharing, you can take a look at and see what we can find if we just go out into our community and do a little bit of research. Thank you.
Okay, so I've got a few of the places that we have visited. I put Whittier Elementary School, that is my school, my daughter goes to, and I thought that it would be a great idea for her class to also go outside and they can take a digging sample there. And it's close by. If you're not able to go and travel down to the Timber Creek Nature Center, you could simply have the students go out into their current environment and take samples there. And what I like about using Google Earth in comparison in our area is they could see that just a short distance away that there is a completely different type of ground and things that they can find if they do a little digging. So here in the middle of the United States, most people think it's just flat. There's not really much there. As we saw with Tiffany's video and the things we can find when we just look and spend a little time in our environment that's just nearby here. So that's why I chose to look into Timber Creek Nature Center and then this Great Salt Plains digging area.
And so a few points that we just want to make here towards the, in conclusion. As the instructor for this course, I was overwhelmed by the amazing lessons that our teacher candidates created. One of the things that really ended up fascinating me and just stands out as an example was that I saw several lessons about erosion, but the type of erosion varied depending on where students were located. The students in Western Kansas would talk about wind erosion. Students in Eastern Kansas talked about water erosion. And what was kind of fascinating with that is that as our teacher candidates shared their lessons with each other, they're also sharing their places, their homes, their communities. And so it's not just a lesson they created, but they're really getting to show who they are and where they're from in a way that's really powerful, and especially in a remote setting. And even as we come out of the pandemic, remote courses are going to continue to grow. And there's a lot of value that it really offers. We have folks that are able to earn their teaching degree because of remote courses that would not be able to otherwise. And with that, though, we still want to be able to really place a specific emphasis on place, and especially in rural Kansas and in Nebraska and across the Great Plains. School budgets are never excessive. In our local environment, our local communities are our best teaching resource in teaching science. What is right around us, what's available for free, the local environment, the changing weather, that is our best teaching resource. And so especially in a methods course, there's a real need for emphasizing that and preparing teachers to use that. And that's something that as we prepare teachers, whether they are teaching in urban settings, rural settings, I think an important goal for us as teacher educators has got to be to prepare them to teach in the places they live. And if we share those places with them, great. If we're separated geographically, we still have to prepare them to teach where they are going to teach. And so with that, here's our contact information. Both Tiffany and Toby had full lesson plans that went with this, all sorts of wonderful resources. They have insights as students who went through this assignment and this experience that I don't. And I would, of course, be more than happy to share anything I have as far as the assignment and rubrics and things like that. I wish you all the best as you finish out your school year, and thank you for watching.
Thank you.